Nick McLarty, who's going to talk about some agronomic changes on Blythewood, and then Dan's going to come in with some commentary after that, I think. So over to you, Nick.
I guess it's probably a little bit before my time. I was still working for Mitchell's full time when Dan probably came on the scene with Dad and Jeff back in the day when he was working for CSVP. And through his efforts, we've definitely changed the way in which we, instead of going out each year and just ripping a paddock up and maybe seeding it, getting our pH level right, cleaning them up, which we've tried to do for a long time, but just actively now producing more off less. As Dad will say, and he hasn't said today, but expensive land, but let's instead of buying more land, how about we make our land bigger by improving what we have? So as you can see there, Dan's done a lovely stocking rate graph. I'll let him explain, I guess.
Okay, yeah, this is the stocking rate, and probably we've had discussion for years, since I've been working on that property, is to try and slowly increase the stocking rate. It was pretty modest in terms of the rainfall, the potential of the farm, in my view, and we've slowly been chipping away at that. I did put the number on one of the earlier slides. I looked at some 2016 numbers, and we're at 575 breeding cows, and we're up to 640 this year. So that's something that we've been trying to improve the feed base to run more stock on the farm, and I think we've still got some room to go there. And this is just using the Evergraze stocking rate calculator, is the one I like because it's a monthly DSC calculator. It gives you an annual and a monthly DSC number, but you can see how the Blythewood stocking rate changes over the season. So with the ability there that they trade in a lot of steers in spring, you can see that spike up in the spring months, and then backs right off when the calves are weaned, and there's only a handful of tradies kicking around the farm. So that graph probably just shows you the change in feed demand and how it fits against the growing season. So we'll be, the guys are always looking at that, and they can have the ability with their trading operation to really kick that spring demand up if the season suits, and or wind it in. So that's the advantage of that trading system they've got, is that they can really utilise the good seasons or back off in the not so good seasons.
And we'll go across. Now I've got a bit. Need to explain this graph a bit more. Is it quite right? The rainfall, obviously, and how we fit into it.
Yeah, S had asked us for the last 3 years of rainfall, so I grabbed the last 3 years on this chart. So you can see that this is a cumulative graph, so it adds the rainfall on as we go. So the steep parts of the curve are our winters over the last 3 years, compared to the average, all years, plus the dark blue line has been the average. So you can see that the last 3 seasons, we've been steadily losing ground on the average cumulative rainfall. So just means our seasons aren't as wet as they used to be, and this is a general trend for this high rainfall area. Our winters aren't as brutally wet as they have been. So Lee might want to comment about the seasons, but the dry winters suit us, it seems, in some of our grazing systems. It's just the shoulders we've got to worry about. And Lee keeps telling me his best year he's had it for every year, just about.
Well, Dad's comment on that will be, as a kid you drive along and all you'd see is water laying around. But where their water's not laying anymore, there's grass there. So you picked up land, which you once didn't have.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely relevant on some of the flatter country on the high rainfall, for sure. Dry winters are good. It's just the shoulders that we want, the good timing of rainfall.
I think, Dan, the importance is it's not the quantity of rain, although my father used to always say the more rain, the better the season. But I think it's the timing of the rain. If we can get a bit of rain now, early, get the season off, and then, gradually come through and have it through the winter. Don't want the winter to be too cold, then get those finishing rains. So not necessarily if we get a 42-inch rainfall season, does it make it better than a 36-inch one, as long as the rain comes at the right times? I think that's the same with cropping or any sort of farming. So the good seasons are those ones where we get a finish, and then probably the good seasons are the ones where we don't get a lot of rain in the summer and our dry feed doesn't get affected.
Yeah, and I think that's a good comment. That probably with the increasing levels of productivity on the farm, it's not, we were doing that with less rainfall. So rainfall probably wasn't a limitation back in the, there are other factors on the farm, part of our feed base that's a limitation.
So, as we see, a soil testing regime through Dan, and improving on your pH, your traces, but knowing what you need, it's been a big factor. There's no point in going out there. I've had this discussion with a few other young farmers coming along. One was Clash, one was last year, down Marona, and this is what we've done. As my father's always done, it's what we're going to do. I said, but what happens if you don't need it? What happens if you're wasting money? There's no point doing something if it doesn't need it, and there's no point not doing it if it does need it. So through that, through Dan Glover and CSBP, we've been able to, with technology, which Dan Parnell slowly coming along with. He's very, very testing on the GPS on the app, making sure he's working. But with that farm map you saw earlier, that's a program through CSBP, which I've been able to finally do. There's little things that's actually making our job a lot easier. And when I'm fertilising, I don't have to carry around bits of paper. I can just look at my phone, and as most probably wheat belt farmers do, and know exactly what we're doing, where we're going with it. So, and we've seen a big improvement in that. It's actually a good thing to get in, make a bit of dusts, and get the seed in early. You can see benefits, clean your paddocks up, and yeah, this is one that people will drive past actually on the highway. Most people have seen it. We live in this area. You look at it now, it's a bit of labour's gone in, clean them up, get the seed in, and deal with the dust later. The direct drilling, I had this clash heads with my father and my uncle about this a fair bit. We've had a go at it. This year we're not doing it, just because of the paddocks which we're doing need to be ripped up. They need a clean up, a bit of level. But last year there was a opportunity. I went to a paddock, I sprayed it out. I was going to rip it up, but there was a massive clover base held on, which was unreal. So we locked that subsoil moisture in and ran some oat straight into it. A problem we do have, which the oat crop was good, we do graze them, but then this type of variety oat didn't really handle the water too well, and to become very grassy, a lot of ryegrass through it, which in our case isn't a bad thing. It's full protein, a lot of clover there, so it wasn't the end of the world. But if you're trying to achieve a fully clean oat crop, we don't use the chemicals like they do over the hill, and our sowing spacings are a lot closer. So, but at the end of the day, there still is method for it. So as we see here, pardon the Cape wheat, but it does make good feed. This was a paddock we renovated 2 years ago. More or less, there was an opportunity, virgin paddock, rough as all hell. Fire went through it, burned about 250 acres. I remember the fire is saying, they kept hitting their head. So it's 50 odd hectares. We turned it around very simply by ripping it up, dragging, harrowing, you put the time in, pick the sticks up, and we made it from a not very productive paddock to a very, very, now you can see it on the highway, it looks like bare dirt. Last year had a massive clover base return, and the cows just loved it and cleaned it right up. So as you can see, the figures I got there, so this year we'll sow around about 30 hectares of bass oats. It's expensive, but we found it works. So if we've got a variety that doesn't mind this soil type and the amount of moisture it does take in. We're using Bell's pasture mix. We just keep it simple. We don't muck around too much more with extended varieties. We found I've had the most success. Just had a good general mix. We generally cut around about 220, 240 hectares. we average around about 2,000 rolls. When you say 2,000 rolls, it works at about 1,000 tonne. We work at about 500 kilos to a roll, somewhere around there, 450, 500 kilos, and about 2,500 small squares. Within that 2,000, there'll be generally 200 or 300 oaten rolls, and those small squares, about 500 oaten squares, which the oats are generally then put back through the feedlot. A few years ago, once again, one of my lovely things I found online, which my father and uncle don't like me buying, but I did. I found the boom spray a very, very useful renovation tool. It's quick, simple, easy. Just get to those paddocks, clean them up. Just pulling back that capeweed. Now, the capeweed isn't a bad grass to have. The cattle do really well, but it's I found when we go through, we can clean them up. Gives those those established rise and clovers just a bit more fighting edge, and you can see a lot cleaner paddock that year, which I haven't had much discussion about Dan's, but we do get the residual. The following year, the capeweed obviously does come back. There is a lot of seed base left there, but you can if you can lock your paddocks up for that 2 weeks, put your bug sprays out as well because you're passing over it. You'll find after a month there's a lot more feed utilisation there. So once again, you're growing more off less, and come summer there's going to be some grass left for us. Here we have a typical July. That swamp's typically full of water. The feed, the grass isn't high, but it's that was a pretty good year. I think that was about a year or so ago I took that photo. Last year it was. So I think I might have hit that with a bit of urea. Just giving it hit it with urea, give it 2 weeks, and put the cows back on it. And we found that's a good boost. It is hard on those. Last year being a hard year to try and lock up paddocks. But if you can put up with the pain for a couple of weeks, there's a massive benefit with your feed production at the end of it. That's that photo again. So here we're just a typical month apart. Unfortunately, I did have a picture with Huey on the left-hand side. We're using him as a measurer last year, but just that 80 kilos of urea, or actually that would have been NKS. So these oats would have had a lick of urea about a week after they were put in, just when I had the bin turn up. I have found, given that nitrogen early, there's a lot of benefits. It just helps it get in and get up, compared to another paddock, which was in probably 2 weeks earlier. It just didn't get the strength like this one did. So then a lick of NKS 21 around about the 20th of August, and you can see what it's like there on the 20th of September. So it seems to work quite well. We could explore our use of fertiliser a bit more, but we've had good success with the basics. So come hay season, lovely fire in the background, we can see, but it's just that typical. It was very grassy, as we can see down there at October 16. There was a lot of wimmera come back through. That was a paddock renovated last year, but there's a lot of bulk. You've got to remember too, we graze all our paddocks before we, up till about August, mid-August, all our hay paddocks, everything gets grazed pretty well. And these was grazed heavy. So you're getting a lot of fatty value out of it. And we've achieved, out of 30 hectares, by memory, I think it was something like 430 rolls in there, which was typically a wet paddock and a lot of old variety grasses. So introducing those new variety rye and clovers, it's you can achieve a lot more off less. It's just hay around every sort of pasture mix. So this is probably a bit more Dan's bit here, I reckon.
Yeah, I could probably throw it back to you. What are the opportunities, for continued improvement? There's been some improvements. I think I threw a few of them in there, and
so we can run more.
Yeah,
and to run more is to, we've still got some fairly big hectare paddocks. If we just go back to the right back at the beginning, where the farm map is, we can see. I'll just grab a pointer. There we go. All right. So we can see here what we call that Martins there. That used to be one big paddock, so 148 hectares. Cleaning them up, putting a fence across, and we've got to do another one across here again. You know, bringing them back into that 56 hectares is probably a bit big. I think we find more in that 30 to 40 hectare paddock size is very manageable. We're just bringing those paddocks back in the line. We need to put a fence across here, and you look over here, the junction, 151 hectares. It's just, it needs work. It's just one of those things, and that's to improve that farm. The farm layout is by just getting your paddocks to a manageable size. So, we go out here every year. We've limed it, spread it, but we haven't cleaned it up and introduced new pastures, which we need to do. But probably if you look over the history or the past 5 to 10 years, the DSE would have increased. We probably should have had that when we first came along and had a bit of but we're not very good at keeping records. So just getting that, like you said, that farm layout is a massive one.
And just on that, if we can reduce some of those paddock sizes, we can have a more controlled grazing system and keep control of our pastures better. With the junction paddock was 150 hectares, massive paddock. It's very hard to get control of the pasture in something that big, so particularly in spring. So just getting the farm layout sorted so we can manage, not necessarily go to strip graze or anything like that, but a rotation of some sort of control. And
that's right. We do. I don't know if it's a good thing or not. Paddocks we do reseed. We do cut for hay. So anything we renovate, we generally cut for hay each year. There has been issues. Quite a common issue with paddocks you reseed. They don't generate again the following year, even though you might have let them. One classic example: let them after cutting the hay, hay's gone. They've regerminated, come to seed. That following seed bank doesn't seem to come back. It did in a little bit for us last year, but that seems to be a big issue. And Eric can probably elaborate on that a little bit. But we do find that that seed bank and those new varieties is very hard to obtain to come back.
And they won't, Nick, probably, unless you cut a lot earlier or cut silage.
Yeah, cut silage, exactly right. Or go back and reseed. But even stuff we've reseeded the following year in the same ground, it still can, it's trace of it's hard. It's not like it should be. Where you think it should be, put it that way.
Yeah.
But the growth of this place, we can say, there's still some purchases of land which are always opportunities, but lease. But we like to try and keep everything relatively close. As you can see that on that farm map before, it's about 10 k's from one end to the other, from town to the end of Boy Swamp at least. We're very, very fortunate that our property for about 4,000 acres. It all joins up. So for management wise, we're very, very fortunate in that respect. We're not travelling huge distances. So.
All right. I'd probably just add, we were making some of these improvements slowly. It's quite a large chunk of land to increase our costs, variable rate costs of going your kitchen sink. A lot of the farm it doesn't really match the productivity per se. So we're just taking slow steps to improve the pasture base, slowly improve stock numbers. And that probably hopefully gives Lee and Nick and Jeff a confidence that, they can support more numbers on the farm and slowly increase productivity that way. So, and one thing, around the forage, getting some more quality, because a large part of the summer feed base is dry feed. So quality in the hay and forage that is made is a really important one to get value that dry feed more. So that's another thing that we've looked at with some of the hay testing that we probably need to do more of, Nick. We probably missed this year.
Yeah, this is probably the year to do it. We can trace a bit better too, actually. But and this is probably something that makes Dan cringe every year. We only fertilise half the farm a year. It's purely a cost factor. where Dan made a comment, he'd love to go and hit a paddock about 400 kilos to the hectare of soil potash just to see what it would do to our trends. But there is a couple out there that do proper annual maintenance, which is great, and you can see it. But the biggest thing is just coverage time and dollars. So, but we can see on the graph that our DSE, what we've talked about every year, we have a quick 5-minute discussion. It is slowly creeping up there. So, you can't spend the world, you can't spend everything on it, or you'll go broke. So, we're just small steps, and we seem to be getting a bit better at it.
Dan and Nick, that was great discussion between the two of you. I have a burning question, and I reckon it's running through Hayley's mind too. Something along these lines is that you mentioned the shoulder of the season earlier, and the changing climate, and that shoulder season period, which clearly is the rate limiting step in your production system. You're trying to squeeze through that gap to get to the other side. What opportunities do you think there might be to produce feed in that period? And I guess I'm talking March to May in most years. And what value would you put on green feed that was produced in that window? And how would you do it? So pretty loaded up question, but have a crack at.
So you're saying if you had an early break to the season, is what you're trying to say?
No, I'm thinking about stored soil moisture and utilising it somehow.
It's very hard here. We can dig down a long way, and you can dig down probably that far, and it's dry. You got to get down to a metre to get your moisture. It is hard. You can go in, it just won't germinate. I guess we find until we've had that that start of the season. It's very, just that soil type is very different to the wheat belts out hide and that sort of thing, where they love it. That can hold the moisture where we can't. I think that's just that soil type is probably our biggest issue in that respect.
We do have a little bit of perennial kicking around, like Kaikuyu, and they got a little bit of that around the creek lines on some soil types. It is pretty harsh in Pinjarra in the middle of summer. It gets pretty hot, and the sea breeze howls, and so we don't fluke those storms like the Eastern Wheat Belt does, from a summer challenge. So, and plus, our climate really suits that annual system. So I think we've got plenty of room to improve our annual systems for the short term. I think we've tried things, done trials with lucerne and a few other odds and sods. Problem with some of those perennials, we try and make them survive through a flood and then survive extremely harsh dry summer. So it doesn't always work. I think maybe the summer crops might have more of a bit like what Matt said this corner, but there's some of our challenges, I think.
We're better off not having any rain at all. From when the season finishes till the start of the season, we don't want any rain because there's more utilisation in our dry feed. So I guess the way to get that March to May feed base is to grow more, produce more hay. So we're better off we're better off with no rain, and people find that really bizarre.
And I think that's a good point, Nick. If we got a 10% improvement on our spring production or utilisation, that would be a huge number for the business. And that's not that hard to. It's a little bit easier to achieve than sinking some investment into something that's a little bit untried. So I think from this business point of view, I think that's probably what we might look at. But there's other, there's all these other tools in the tool shed that can look at perennials and whatever summer crops. But I think spring, we're guaranteed a spring. We can plan for that, and we can plan for improvements to that. And a big chunk of our feed's grown at that time. If we make small percentage improvements on that, that's going to affect the business significantly.
One thing we didn't mention earlier, Dan, was that talking about the perennials and that, I just don't think here it's going to be viable. But what I didn't mention was the fact that once the spring is finished and cattle that aren't finished, we then got a feedlot system where we use milled pellets. So rather than try and grow extra feed for fattening cattle, which you'd probably need water, irrigation and whatnot, we use quite a bit of Milton's easy beef. And any cattle haven't finished off in the spring, we'll take the opportunity to finish those cattle through January, February, March. That's our last while we're going today. So that's the opportunity we take there, and not have to use a lot of ground, and it works pretty well. The opportunities there quite often for those trade cattle to finish them on pellets. Although you've got to be really careful. It's not the costing and then the profit margins are pretty slight, so you've got to be really careful. But value adding to those spring cattle, it works really well.
Okay, Dan and Nick, that was an excellent overview of your priorities in terms of pasture production. I think that was absolutely spot on. And so me talking about the shoulder season was possibly just an entree into the discussion, and I like your prioritisation of where or resources need to be allocated in that. Look, on behalf of Walrac, I think we will close off now. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. I want to thank the McLartys particularly for their fantastic effort in bringing their farm to you online. That was a wonderful expose. Once again, thank you all for attending, and enjoy the rest of the day.